I'm thirsty. Can I get a glass of water? This is not a prank. And he just takes, like, goes like this. You never seen it?
No.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
Oh,
it's amazing.
no.
It's amazing. He gets a glass of Flint tap water, and I swear to God, he drinks it like this, like this. Watch this.
Can I get some water? Come on up here. Give me some water. I really didn't need a glass of water. This is not a stunt.
Usually when something isn't a stunt, you have to say
It's
that.
100% a stunt. When was the last time a president stopped a speech to ask, can I get a glass of water? Did it again. Here's another one. Watch how he did it this time. Watch he gets up to his mouth.
You know, generally I have not been doing stunts here, but, you know.
Oh, really?
But he didn't drink it.
To some, Barack Obama is the golden boy of modern politics, the symbol of hope and progress. But to Joe Rogan, he's something entirely different, a smooth salesman with a velvet voice who left America running in circles. Why does Rogan call Obama the ultimate motivational speaker instead of a true leader? And what's the dark secret behind his carefully polished image that no one wants to admit? Stay tuned, because this story is about to cut deep. The velvet voice versus the harsh reality. Joe Rogan doesn't mince words when it comes to Barack Obama. He describes him almost like a magician, someone who can wave his hands, tell a beautiful story, and suddenly, the crowd forgets that the rabbit never came out of the hat. To Rogan, Obama's leadership was built on style, not substance. His speeches were flawless, his delivery unmatched, but behind the curtain, a very different picture. It's almost as if Obama knew he had the voice of silk and the charisma of a rock star, and he used those qualities as armor. When he spoke, people leaned in. The pauses, the rhythm, the carefully chosen words. It was theater. Rogan often compares it to a motivational seminar where the audience leaves pumped up, full of hope, but by the next morning, nothing in their actual life has changed. The high fades, the problems remain. Obama wasn't delivering solutions. He was delivering adrenaline shots of optimism. Take the surveillance state, for example. Under Obama, the NSA expanded its reach into the lives of everyday Americans. It wasn't just casual oversight. It was a deep structural change that opened doors to widespread monitoring. Rogan says it was like giving Big Brother a brand new set of binoculars and telling him to roam freely through the neighborhood. While citizens thought their privacy was a right, Obama's government turned it into a privilege that could be stripped away. And the irony? Obama's public face was the defender of freedom and democracy. He stood on stages across the world and spoke about liberty, human rights, and the dignity of every citizen. Yet at the same time, his administration was secretly building one of the most invasive surveillance networks in US history. Rogan sees this as the ultimate bait and switch, selling freedom at retail price while handing control over wholesale to the state. To Rogan, this wasn't just a political misstep, it was a betrayal. When a leader promises light but quietly builds shadows, that's not leadership, that's doublespeak, and Rogan calls it exactly that. And then there was the water stunt. Obama, mid-speech, suddenly asked for a glass of water. Now, most people in the audience saw it as a human moment. Here was the President of the United States, pausing in the middle of his powerful delivery to admit, I need a drink. To many, it showed humility, a proof that even presidents get parched. But Rogan didn't buy it. To him, it wasn't a slip of humanity. It was a calculated act. Like a stand-up comic who knows that sipping water at the right time makes the audience lean in, Obama used it as a tool. It was about optics, relatability. He didn't want to be the untouchable figure at the podium. He wanted to be the guy you could imagine having a beer with. Rogan argued that this wasn't authenticity, it was performance. Every detail was staged, down to the smallest sip. It's the kind of tactic you'd expect from an entertainer, not a commander-in-chief. To Rogan, it was proof that Obama was always more performer than leader, and the contradictions don't stop there. Obama once said he wished he had generals like Hitler's, men who followed orders without question. It was a moment most brushed aside, but Rogan zeroed in on it. He saw it as a window into Obama's true audience, the kind of unquestioning loyalty that history teaches us to fear. For Rogan, that was chilling. It wasn't about respect for authority, it was about control, and it begged the question, was Obama more interested in democratic debate or in ruling without resistance? This is where Rogan's criticism hits hardest. He argues that Obama wasn't revolutionary. People expected a disruptor, a reformer, a leader who would rip out the rotten roots of the old system and plant something fresh. Instead, what they got was a smoother salesman for the same old machine. Rogan says Obama gave America what felt like a TED Talk sponsored by corporate donors. Smooth slides, inspiring phrases, and a sense of progress carefully packaged in bite-sized sound bites. He was the ultimate keynote speaker, except this wasn't a conference, it was a country. And when the lights dimmed, America went home to the same problems it had before. Look at the economy. Wages remained stagnant. Real job growth was sluggish. Entire communities were still suffering in the aftermath of the recession. Rogan argues that Obama used words as bandages, but never actually stopped the bleeding. He spoke like the economy was on the mend, but for many Americans, nothing had changed. It was the equivalent of a doctor telling you you're healthy while you're still coughing up blood. Obama sold hope like a brand. The posters, the slogans, the message of yes we can. It was everywhere on t-shirts, bumper stickers, and in the hearts of millions. But when the dust settled, Rogan says, the product inside the box didn't match the label. Instead of revolution, America got repackaged politics with better marketing. Think about his peace speeches. Obama could stand at a podium for 40 minutes, painting a picture of a world free of conflict. He'd speak with conviction, passion, and sincerity. People would walk away believing they'd just heard the gospel of peace from a true statesman. And then, minutes later, he'd authorize a drone strike. Rogan calls this the clearest example of Obama's two-facedness. The man who spoke of harmony and understanding would sign off on actions that left villages in ruins. It was like a doctor preaching the importance of health while chain-smoking in the parking lot. To Rogan, the contradiction was glaring. The words and the actions didn't line up. One was polished, rehearsed, and public. The other was raw, destructive, and hidden behind classified memos. Obama wasn't just a leader out of touch with his promises, he was the embodiment of political hypocrisy. And for Rogan, that's the dark secret everyone avoids. Obama wasn't the revolutionary who changed the system, he was the performer who kept it alive. So what other things does Joe Rogan have to say about Obama? From hope to hypocrisy. Rogan believes Obama's journey is one of the sharpest turns in modern politics. Think about it. This was the man who once electrified crowds with hope and change. The senator who dared to criticize Wall Street. The voice that promised ordinary Americans they would finally be heard. Yet fast forward a few years, and the same man is cashing million-dollar checks from the very system he once condemned. To Rogan, that isn't evolution. It's betrayal. It's like watching the preacher who rails against sin in the morning service, then gets caught at the casino by nightfall. Let's look at the numbers, because numbers don't lie. After leaving the White House, Obama signed a staggering $65 million book deal. Not $6 million, 65. It was one of the richest publishing contracts in history. And this wasn't just a story of a man writing down his experiences. It was a story of a brand cashing in. Rogan argues that this shows how politics and celebrity culture fused into one with Obama. He didn't just leave office, he launched a franchise. And it didn't stop there. Obama teamed up with Netflix, producing shows like Leave the World Behind. Now here's the irony Rogan can't help but point out. Instead of being a unifying message, the series included moments that highlighted racial tension. Instead of bridging divides, it subtly underscored them. Rogan says it's like hiring a firefighter who spends more time fanning the flames than dousing them. Obama was supposed to be the healer, the man who soothed racial scars. Instead, his cultural work seemed to remind people of how deep those wounds still ran. Then came the Obama Foundation, announced with the fanfare of a movement. It promised to uplift communities, spark hope, and give ordinary people tools for change. But Rogan says the reality was very different. Instead of grassroots empowerment, what we got were $80 coffee mugs and curated playlists that looked more like a Spotify influencer page than a vehicle for transformation. Rogan laughs at the absurdity. A foundation that claims to fight injustice but spends its energy selling merchandise isn't transformation, it's a boutique. Imagine walking into a shelter after a hurricane, expecting food and water, but being handed a coupon for a branded hoodie instead. That's how Rogan describes the mismatch between Obama's promises and his actions. And then, of course, there's the money. Before the presidency, Obama's net worth was modest. He lived like a well-off professional, but not extravagantly. After, it skyrocketed. Tens of millions rolled in from books, speeches, and deals. To Rogan, this is the ultimate irony. How does the man who once stood on stage railing against Wall Street greed turn around and collect paychecks from from the same banks that cause the financial pain. It's like watching a referee switch jerseys mid-game, suddenly playing for the very team he was supposed to police. Rogan sees it as proof that Obama wasn't fighting the system, he was negotiating his buy-in price. And then there's the climate change hypocrisy. Obama often warned Americans about rising seas, vanishing coastlines, and the urgent need for drastic action. His speeches painted vivid pictures of children growing up in a world with flooded cities and raging storms. Yet what did he do after leaving office? He bought a beachfront property. Rogan pounced on this like a wolf spotting weakness in the herd. If the world is truly ending in floods, why on earth would you park millions of dollars right where the water is supposed to rise? To Rogan, it was hypocrisy in its purest form. A man selling fear with one hand and buying luxury with the other. He compared it to a doomsday prophet who warns of fire while building a mansion in the forest. If you don't believe your own warnings, why should anyone else? Foreign policy tells the same story. Rogan says Obama's so-called measured approach was nothing more than a polished mask for hypocrisy. He wasn't dismantling America's war machine, he was greasing its wheels. Military contracts were tossed out like party favors at a corporate gala. Drone strikes became the quiet backdrop of his administration, not the exception. Weddings, villages, families bombed in the name of precision. And when the blood was spilled, Obama would step up to the podium and offer condolences, as though carefully worded sympathy could erase the wreckage. Rogan calls it a twisted kind of theater, tragedy followed by empathy, like an actor bowing after a grim performance. The show went on, but the audience paying the price lived thousands of miles away. And then Rogan drops his boldest question, the one that cuts through the noise. Why? Why do Americans keep falling for it? Why do voters settle for speeches polished like diamonds instead of demanding real substance? Why do people prefer the glow of the brand over the grit of reality? Rogan argues it's because Obama mastered performance politics. He wasn't just a leader, he was an entertainer, a man who could make people feel good even while doing the very things they claim to hate. This is why Rogan calls Obama the brand ambassador of hypocrisy. Think about it. One day, he's delivering speeches on systemic injustice, thundering about the need for fairness and equality. The next day, he's cashing checks from the system's biggest beneficiaries, publishing houses, corporate banks, and Hollywood giants. Rogan says Obama walked a tightrope between morality and money, and in the end, he leaned toward the money every single time. It wasn't about service, it was about sales. Even Obama's racial legacy gets complicated under Rogan's lens. Instead of healing divides, his presidency often sharpened them. Sure, the symbolism of a black president was historic, but Rogan points out how little that symbolism translated into real healing. In fact, he argues that in some cases, the divisions deepened, and when Leave the World Behind came out, with its raw scenes of distrust between races, Rogan saw it as a mirror of Obama's failures. The man who promised to cure the wound ended up letting it fester, almost as though he'd found it more profitable to keep it open than to close it. The deeper you look, the clearer Rogan's picture becomes. Obama wasn't the radical leader many imagined. He was a brand, a motivational speaker, a man who gave America a TED Talk with corporate funding, then cashed the checks when the show was over. The hope was real, but according to Rogan, the change never arrived. But how true is all this? Was Barack Obama truly the leader of hope, or just the slickest salesman politics has ever seen, like Rogan believes? Joe Rogan's take may sting, but it forces us to ask hard questions. What do you think? Drop your thoughts below, hit subscribe, and stay tuned because the next story might change how you see everything.